Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
So, we're going to talk about mindfulness?
Sure.
So, tell me about mindfulness. What does mindfulness mean to you?
Well, mindfulness, it's funny. When I always hear the word mindfulness, I think about, meditation, and I think about just being, I guess, very focused and intent on the present moment, and not having your mind wander whenever you're doing whatever you happen to be doing, but being focused and concentrating on what you're doing in the moment and making sure that there's alignment between your thought and what you're doing, not just the actual activity itself, but to the extent that you're trying to figure out the best approach to something, what the right answer is for whatever it is that you're thinking about or doing, to make sure that there's alignment between your thought and your action.
And how does that help you in your law practice?
Well, I think when you can cut the noise out, I think that there's a lot of noise that we encounter on a daily basis. There's a lot of that internal chatter. So there's the I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough sort of chatter that goes on behind the scenes a lot. And between that, as well as the running commentary that I think all of us have about things that we encounter, people we encounter during the course of a day, I think when you're able to cut all of that out, you're able to tap into your inner wisdom a lot more. And I think that's not just a mental wisdom, but it's also a body wisdom. And I think when you're able to cut the noise and channel and tap into the body wisdom as well as the mental wisdom, you're able to just do a better job for your clients. I think you're able to reach decisions a lot better, decisions that are the right thing. I think that you're just able to analyze multifaceted issues and problems with a lot more speed and agility.
So when you say body wisdom, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So what I'm talking about is, a lot of folks talk about when you feel something in your gut, whether it's not usually a good thing, it's usually a bad thing.
Right.
But I think when you're more in tune with yourself and with sort of like how you physiologically react to certain things, I think that that is a level of wisdom that a lot of times folks don't really necessarily tap into, but it usually manifests itself as me feeling something in my gut. Sometimes if something doesn't feel quite right, I'll feel it as a headache, or like my heart will race. It's sort of the fight or flight syndrome to a certain extent. But I think sometimes if you're not really tuned in your body wisdom, the fight or flight syndrome, like the heart racing, could actually be more of a fear-based reaction than something based in reality. So, but when you're tuned into yourself more, when you experience that fight or flight type of situation, then I think it's a lot more likely to be a true sort of statement of what's going on, and you'll know that there's really danger present.
Right. The example that I always use is if you're sitting at your office and the phone rings and you see on the caller ID and it's someone that you have a lot of difficulties with. I don't know about you, but for me, I notice my stomach will tighten up, my shoulders will come up, and sometimes I'll notice sweaty palms, and just really being mindful of that moment-to-moment experience. Then I actually have a choice as to how I'm going to react to it in that moment, instead of all of a sudden having like a full-blown like emotional reaction. So really catching it a lot earlier on.
No, I agree. What I try to do when I'm dealing with difficult situations like that is watch my breath. I will take a deep breath. Again, a lot of people say that you should take a deep breath, and they mean that sort of colloquially, but I think physiologically taking a deep breath, because I think people oftentimes literally stop breathing depending on the situation, and your brain's not getting the oxygen it needs, your body's not getting the oxygen it needs, so you start experiencing weird things physiologically as a result. And so I think taking a deep breath, and also what I try to do is have the approach that whenever I'm speaking with somebody who I've experienced difficulties with in the past, what I really try to do is approach the situation from sort of a brand new perspective, almost tossing out the bad sort of experiences I've had, being mindful of them and understanding that that's sort of a history and a set of data points, but really trying to sort of start afresh and start anew and not carry the baggage of those prior experiences into the current situation. And I also try to approach situations with a lot of empathy. So when someone is being particularly difficult, sometimes it's just the way they are, and there's not much, I guess, to add to that evaluation. But if you approach situations with a lot of empathy, and really understand that at the end of the day, everybody's a person, and oftentimes there's a script or something going on in their mind that is making them react a certain way, and really trying to figure out, why is this person being this way in this particular situation? I've noticed that having that vantage point and taking that step back in the moment can often help alleviate some of what can often sometimes be difficult situations. It will help that, make it go a little bit more smoothly.
Right. So I understand you have a meditation practice.
I do.
Yeah. What does your day-to-day meditation practice look like?
So about 12 years ago, I learned a variation of transcendental meditation. And so what that entails is, in the mornings and in the late afternoons into the early evening, meditating for 20 minutes. And then, that's really it. It's a very regimented, like no more than 20 minutes. You should really stick to 20 minutes. And I have my own mantra. And so I say the mantra to myself in very much controlled breathing. Really, when I notice my mind wandering, to really sort of focus on my breath. And it's a decluttering of the mind, so to speak, but also there's no fault associated with having your mind wander, because that's the human condition, is your mind will wander. So I tend to meditate every morning. I really try to be religious about that. It's the afternoon meditation that tends to be really difficult. So, but having the meditation in the morning is really helpful. And so I do that before I go into work every day. And I find that it really helps me to compartmentalize issues and problems more, which is a healthy thing. And also just helps with my ability to just tune into my inner wisdom and make decisions. I just found that my decision making is a lot better since I started meditating.
So I can just imagine the lawyers watching this video saying, 20 minutes a day, that's a lot of lost billable hours. So how do you justify that loss of time and spending time meditating?
Well, I actually wake up earlier. So I get into the office really early in the morning, and when I decided to make meditation part of my daily routine, the way that I fit it in was by waking up earlier. And in some ways I would love to get 20 more minutes of sleep, but if you do meditation on a regular basis and you do it the way that a lot of different practices sort of explain it, you will find, and they find that from a medical perspective, and I'm sure you've heard this, that the way that meditation alters your brain waves, you can actually end up having a more restful experience in many ways than if you were just sleeping. So what I have found is that with the benefits I get, that they far outweigh the 20 extra minutes of sleep I would get by not meditating. So
right. I know for me, what I found is that when I started meditating, all the noise really settled. So when I am someplace, both my mind and body is there. It's not, I'm physically there, but my mind is checked out someplace else. So I'm able to get so much more done, and my productivity has gone way up. So I may spend 20 minutes meditating, but I really recoup that time in just having less noise and being able to focus and be a lot more present to what I'm doing in that moment. And it just makes life so much more joyful, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of, like we were talking about, the inner chatter, and I think a lot of it is negative. And I think that in many ways we're our own worst critics, and so a lot of the chatter that we have in our minds is about how we're not good enough or smart enough. And I think with meditation, you sort of get back to, cutting the noise, focusing on your inner wisdom, realizing that a lot of times we make things and situations into more than they really are. And I think once you sort of cut that negativity out, or at least mitigate the amount of negativity in your life, that it does lead to more happiness, because you end up being more focused and you're able to be more productive. You're able to find pockets within your day to do things that make you happy. And I think what will make you happy is a much clearer sort of destination when you're able to cut all the noise.
Right, right. Yeah. And I also noticed that when I am more present, I can actually put things into perspective. So losing that hearing, you can put that into perspective and say, it's just a hearing, you know, and not get so caught up in it and have that really negative looping thought where your mind is going, you're a bad lawyer, or whatever the looping thought might be, and just be like, all right, it's a hearing. What can I learn from it? How do I bounce back and recover and move on? So, do you have any tips for people that are curious about meditation and want to start a practice?
Sure. I would, I think as with most things, especially when they're very different from what we're used to, I would say that meditation is really not that big of a deal. I think some people have this preconceived notion that meditation is really woo-woo and it's only for a certain type of person. It could never be for a lawyer or another intense professional. And I would say, seriously, just jump in and try it. You can go on the internet and do some searching to find different techniques of meditation. I've just over the years talked to a number of people who have different meditation practices where they actually focus on an object rather than focusing on their breathing. And just do a little bit of online research to figure out what it's about and to understand the benefits, and just try it. And I would say if you try it, don't try it for just a day.
Right.
And actually don't just try it for a week. I think you really need to try it for like a month.
Yeah.
Because there are certain immediate benefits that you get, but then there's the longer term benefits, and I think like the focus and the performance-based benefits are things that you don't necessarily see after a week or even several weeks. And be open-minded and don't worry about other people judging you. This is something that you don't necessarily have to share with everybody. I mean, you and I are sort of going out there and, trying to help folks think about it a little bit differently and how it could benefit them. But, just try it and see how you like it. And you'd be amazed, actually, if you start talking to people. Yeah. There are a lot of meditators out there or people who do something that has the benefit of meditation. And I think a lot of folks have noticed the benefits both from a personal perspective as well as a professional perspective. And, don't knock it until you try it is what I would say.
Right. Yeah, I love that.